All right, here we are, folks. I'm Kyle Kemper, and I'm here with my great
Yosef Funke.
friend, Yosef Funke. And this is going to be a podcast where we explore RAZE, but we also explore the game outside of the game, which I'll allow Yosef to describe. And, to be honest, this conversation is really going to be facilitated by Yosef. So please welcome. Let's dive in, brother.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share. I just sent you a video saying like, hey, why don't we jump on a call and use the game planning outline for conversation, because we had planned to catch up. I want to learn more about RAZE. And at the same time, I'm in the process of writing a book. And that's based on turning your goals into a game and using your creative assets as currency. So it's based on a game that I've been facilitating over the past 6 years. It's called the Fresh Biz game. You've played it. And it's a game that it's a business simulation centered around a board game that first looks from the game mechanics like Monopoly, but it's the antithesis of that. So it's helping you within a 1 hour gamified experience. You are transforming your scarcity mentality to possibility thinking, and competitiveness to collaboration and conscious co-creation. It's absolutely fascinating. So I've seen amazing results. Then pandemic hit and I couldn't facilitate groups anymore. But at the same time, I recognized like I'm relating to life and business as a game. And I've taken these game metaphors and created a game planning tool, which is a project management tool, basically, that turns your goals into a game. And in this conversation, we're just going to design your game. It's broad stroking it. So see it as like as a block of marble, and we're going around it and chiseling at it. And at the end, what emerges is clarity on your creative capital. And I would say your next best steps.
Incredible, and I'm looking forward to this, Yosef, because I'll say I played Fresh Biz with you. That was our very first encounter, and to say that it was impactful would be an understatement, because it really shifted the way I looked at life and collaboration, and as you are now going to be taking us through here, it's like, the game outside of the game. It's a game, but by playing it, it challenges a lot of the base assumptions that many people hold within, their worldview and their reality. And like you said, Monopoly is like a pretty lame game. It's a win-lose game. And
Exactly.
one of the great outcomes of the thinking that came out of playing Fresh Biz with you and the teachings in our conversations has been, not even seeking win-wins, but seeking win to the power of win to the winth power
That's it.
outcomes. And, as we enter this new age of civilization, this type of thinking and this type of radical collaboration will help us really unlock the abundance and prosperity that is all around us and is at our fingertips. The question is, how do we tap into that source? How do we tap into all of that? And what are some of the tools that we can do? And Joseph, it feels like you are a node in helping realize this and being a facilitator towards helping others, really understand what radical collaboration means and how, it can better yourself, but it also betters everybody around the table, around the game board. And when we recognize that the game board is all of life, all around us, our families,
Right.
our friends, our societies, our civilization, our planet.
Our gifts,
Very
our talents,
impactful.
our resources. It's like what I always feel like is we have been conditioned in a culture of more, or different, other, and we are not really putting a lot of attention and gratitude in what has been already given to us. So it's this appreciative inquiry approach of what's already excellent, what's already working, and how to then leverage these resources in order to make the next move and gamify it, like iterate it, right? Because linear planning, it's so outdated. We don't know what a week from now all the creative resources and opportunities and conversations that are going to happen between then now and then, we need to be dynamic, we need to be agile, we need to be flexible, and that's what this game planning allows. It's really just like roll the dice, you know, and make a turn, take a turn, and then stop, assess, and take a new turn. And sometimes there are different players involved in different turns. So it's a fantastic project management tool. But let's just dive in. And I think this is also an opportunity for many people who already know you, who already love you, but to understand a little bit more about you. Because again, life and business is a game. I don't think that we are living in, we don't separate ourselves from what it is that we professionally do and who we are in this world. So this is going to be allowing your co-creators and collaborators and fellow players and allies to understand a little bit more context on why you're doing this in the first place. So the first question in this game planning tool is like, what's your big why, Kyle? Like, what's your mission, enduring passion, and your sense of purpose? What gives you the satisfaction, the joy, and happiness in life?
Well, like honestly, like doing this brings great joy and bring happiness. You know, raising the collective vibration, seeing others succeed, you know, helping facilitate, you know, this, I don't know, this transition, which is always happening, you know, is really my why. And, you know, with like and developing tools and solutions and solving problems. You know, one of the great thinkers of our time, Buckminster Fuller, you know, one of his famous quotes is, you know, you can't fix a system by fighting it. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. And, you know, I've spent a lot of time analyzing the shadows and the challenges and, like, you know, the darkness and the fog that aims to restrict and fill people with fear and dominate and control. And, you know, trying to fix the systems of that, these centralized structures, it's by fighting it, it's just not going to work. And honestly, like giving it more attention, and I've had this realization, it's like, you know, I've been screaming from the streets on the microphone about, you know, the challenges we face and, like, you know, the nefarious deeds that are happening. But honestly, it just gives it all more attention. Whereas let's focus instead on what is it that we want to see? What is it that we wish to create? What is the world that, you know, instead of what we don't want to happen and putting all this energy on, like, you know, this negative side, let's focus on what it is that we do want. And I think as we shift our mentality towards focusing on what we do want, you know, we'll be able to realize those. So, you know, yeah, that's
Beautiful. I love you, Kyle. I so align with that, right? It's just like such a waste of energy, and energy flows where attention goes. So let's just stop attending to what we don't want and really share visions for a better world, and pursue those in little steps, right? Little steps forwards. So now from your marketplace, like we are talking now about your ecosystem. Who are the key players in your marketplace? What ecology of individuals, businesses, and communities are you a stakeholder of? And maybe even who are some worthy rivals within that marketplace?
wow. Okay. So, you know, personally, on like my own level, like my key stakeholders are like my wife, my children, my family, my extended family. Then we kind of get into larger circles of my friends, my community, the crypto ecosystem. It's since gotten larger with the, you know, we'll call it the freedom movement, if you will. You know, like those who also recognize some of the great challenges and want to seek solutions or are seeking solutions and seeking guidance. The artistic community is another one, the transformative community, the entrepreneurial. I've definitely been deeply involved within, you know, entrepreneurial creation. You know, there's many different types of artists out there. There are those who paint with a brush, and there's those who paint with strokes on a keyboard or by turning on, you know, a camera. there's so many, then, looking at governance structures as well, into the entire political system. Like, I consider that to be part of the stakeholder system because of, my familial relations and, like, what I've been surrounded by, but also the insight that I've garnered from that, and looking towards this, like, this Bucky model of new systems to, like, to make the existing one obsolete. So, like, as, like, leveraging technology to create new systems, it opens up these other kind of stakeholder groups. Like, ultimately, one of my colleagues, Brock Pierce, he like, coined the term billionaire isn't someone who has $1 billion. It's who positively affects the lives of 1 billion people on Earth. And, that's, I'm not saying that that's my driving mission, but that'd be a nice kind of byproduct of just doing good efforts and doing good work and trying to do only good every day.
Are there some worthy rivals right now in the space that you're in that you admire, that you say like, wow, they're really doing an amazing job, and you can just tip your hat to them?
In terms of rivals, I mean, like, rivals or like co-players, I mean, I would say,
Co-players, yeah, sometimes it's not even a rival, right? It's just
yeah,
like
I mean,
they're
because there's definitely, like, on like, the other side of the spectrum. I mean, I can point to, rivals, like, for example, like my brother, you might even say, like, okay, that's an opposite spectrum kind of rival, if you will. But, like, within this space, I kind of really, admire people like, like Charlie Shrem, for example, who is one of the original kind of Bitcoin innovators and creators, and paid to time by being an innovator, and, has since kind of flourished. And Brock Pierce is another good example, and Bruce Fenton, who's running for a Senate seat in New Hampshire right now, to, Alex Jones and what he's created with his, InfoWars channel. He focuses a lot on the challenges, but I think he's also coming through to this new message of, let's focus forward on the solutions of what we want. But obviously, like, when you're in the news business, headlines sell, and, like, bad news sells kind of more than good news oftentimes. So, that's just something. I like Sasha Stone as well, who's really working on some new age concepts, in the field of like, investing. I love Tim Draper. I think, like, he's an incredible person. Don Tapscott up in Canada, for being a great speaker and leader towards, speaking about how this technology is going to transform things. And, I've learned like great lessons from all these people, over the years. And at like, at a much kind of, like, I don't know, at a different level, I'd say there's this antithesis of these centralized groups and the more decentralized kind of systems that we can enable. Like, one of my greatest friends is named Gary LaChance, and he's like the leader of the decentralized dance party movement, and he's helped me so much towards, realizing what it means to be alive, and, unlocking the power of dance and human connection, and and the virtues of the Doge as well. I think Elon Musk as well is someone to learn great lessons from. He's definitely a unique, interesting personality in his own right, and, kudos to him for, like, really being driven and creating. My other friend Sunny Ray, who's one of the founders of Uno Coin up in Canada, but servicing the Indian market. He's just been a huge inspiration. He's just a wealth of knowledge and consumes like 3 books a day, is hacking all the kind of like knowledge intake, and is just this, incredible human. Um, uh, at a spiritual level, I would say, like, he's not with us any longer, but Jose Arqueles, he was part of the foundation for the law of time, looking at synchronistic time structures. I don't know, there's lots of different people who have been great influences and I would just like akin this to many different light workers, all like, working on this different path. And not everybody I mentioned was necessarily a light worker, but it feels like a lot of them are. And, these are these co-creators and these smarteners, potentially call them, as we, shape at a very macro level. Like a lot of these things I'm talking about is incredibly like, macro, but, personal to me as well, micro to me. So
Yeah,
how about you?
that's awesome. So let's bring it. It's rooted a little bit into the micro, and that is like, how does winning look like? Like on the Fresh Biz board, it's the island and the winners club. So now it's about more of a SMART goal. It's like, what's your next goal or milestone, right? Because it's even a goal. It doesn't end there. It's like Simon Sinek talks about the infinite life player, right? You get better. That's the goal. The goal is to get better at playing the game. So relate to it as a milestone that you want to achieve professionally and or personally.
Right. And so like, there's multiple like, concurrent threads running right now within my life and within everybody's lives, if you will. But like, specifically for, RAZE, like at this moment, like
let's focus on designing a game for RAZE.
Let's focus on designing the game for RAZE. So right now, my focus for RAZE is, we've established the team, we've established the tech, we have a working MVP, we have a great vision. We have the whole firing solution. What our current goal of winning in the short term is creating the capital reserve, the treasure chest, to facilitate the growth and the value generation that will lead to more value generation. So the short term win is closing our private token sale and closing our initial seed equity sale. We got two different streams ongoing, and that is like, my short-term, very realizable win that could be closed, in a day, potentially in a couple hours, potentially in a couple of days, potentially a couple of weeks, and that will enable like, a strong basis from which to, fuel the organization, like, at a capital reserve level, having currency in the chest.
Cool. So let's quantify that again. How much are you raising and by when?
So we're raising $1 million for equity, and we're raising close to $1 million, just a little bit over, by fractionalizing the gross revenue of the platform and issuing dynamic security tokens to investors. So I can get into that more, but it's effectively we're raising $2 million right now for the platform as a whole.
Okay, and ideally by when? I know, like what you said, like it can happen within an hour, right? One conversation can result in finding the right investor, but let's just excuse me, set some kind of realistic timeline.
Oh, I would say, by the middle of July, aim to be at least 50% of the way there.
Sweet. Okay. So now it's about the major focus. That's the next element. To achieve your professional goal of raising $2 million by the middle of July, what aspects of your business and life are to be prioritized that give you the highest and quickest return on investment?
So I think it's focusing. I mean, personally, my drive right now is like, is providing the invitation to connect to this deal to my greater community, on a direct basis, as opposed to like, just blasting or trying to like, push to like, openly and widely. So really focusing, attention and intention on evaluating the feedback, constantly improving, because like, while the goal is this as well, we're in parallel, we're bringing on projects for RAZE at the same time, and in listening to, investors and stakeholders, there's this constant improvement cycle that needs to take place. But, in order to achieve that goal, it really is about reaching out and connecting to as many of, the people who I hold near and dear. which is a challenge a little bit. And I think that, even this video is something that can really potentially help with that, because there's so many people that over my lifetime I've had really amazing direct connections with. And, I want to provide that invitation to connect, but sometimes there's so many that if it's not front and center, those opportunities get missed, or those invitations don't get sent, and that connection isn't able to take place.
Yeah, I think it's such a great focus. Instead of really broadcasting from the tower, it's really building on your relationship capital, the trust capital. And you said something like just learning from these conversations, direct conversations, and then again, integrating their feedback. That's so valuable. So I think it's such a great focus at this time to just play it that way.
And I think it's critical too to understand, what winning looks for, for the other participants out there, because and recognizing, from my perspective, we're a fresh company that I wouldn't even call it a startup, or more of like an aim to be an exponential organization, and it's looking for, we have an opportunity to provide investment, and there's a huge class of people out there and companies out there that are constantly seeking good quality deals. And I feel like this is kind of like I'm not sure if this is the magnus opus for me, but this feels like something really incredible, and all the energies haven't come together quite fully in my life like they are right now with RAZE. And so this is a good opportunity for others, and not to devalue thyself or thy team, and recognize this. If you have an investment fund and you're looking to invest in good projects, and look, I believe that we're a very good project. So this is a win to the wind power. And then by supporting this, especially because we're in the financial industry and we're building financial technology, on the bleeding edge of innovation, that this is something that should be really attractive to financial companies who have larger portfolios, because we're really tackling a lot of just beyond just fundraising to full investor and stakeholder communication, connection, engagement. So many of our lessons and dealings are going into this towards creating tools for value generation and radical collaboration. And it's very, very exciting.
Yeah, and I think you're so in tune, asking people and finding out what their pain points are, what are their deficiencies, what's their bigger meta approach to what they're looking to solve, and then looking at RAZE as an opportunity to contribute to that. I think it's always really good, rather than these are all the features and benefits and solutions that we are providing. Assess first where it lands, what are they looking to invest? What are their solutions? What would be a solution to them? And then share about what it is that you're doing. Now, another thing is Neville Goddard, he talks about the feeling is the secret. And that's what's your attributes? When you think about winning, how do you want to feel when you achieve your goals? What values and virtues are you bringing to your game? And what mindsets and beliefs influence your game positively? Just tune into that for a moment and think about those 2 million have now been raised. How's that feeling?
I mean, I think first, celebrate. That would be a celebration, and it's important to celebrate, our wins along the way, because if we're always just focusing on that next milestone, at some point you're going to pass, and you'll have missed all the opportunities to kind of to celebrate. So I feel great. I would feel there'd be a chance to feel good, and an achievement unlocked. Now it's that's further impetus, rocket fuel, energy, validation of what we're doing, now, like, move on to the next step. What's the next stage of winning, which is, helping other companies raise their capital, seeing other entrepreneurs and innovators and social innovators have, the capital, but more than just the capital, have in place strong structures and, tools to be able to really realize, that winning scenario and that grand winning scenario in an iterative function, for them as well.
And winning, like right now, 2 million, raising 2 million seems like a big win. They're going to be 100 or maybe 200 little micro actions that are mini wins along the way. The brain doesn't distinguish between a big win and a small win. So the practice, the daily practice, is to recognize the small wins that are happening throughout the day and really bring more attention and awareness to them, and share that with others. Like, share that with a note of appreciation or gratitude, and just like, wow, your feedback that you gave me in this call while you're not investing, it's a major value that you contributed in order for us to refine our messaging. So it's, again, it's the pursuit of that goal is creating the preconditions for it to manifest, right? And that's like, and it's the continuous actions towards it that's going to produce those results.
And the support of all the other people too. Like, I'm not alone in this. This isn't this. We have a team, and we're all working towards it, and highlighting, the success of the others and sharing those wins, which sometimes can be as small as just, receiving a positive email back from someone that, you admire or seek to connect with. That can be really great. Just setting up a meeting can be a win. One of these micro wins.
And that's the next phase of it. And that's the next element here, is who are the players who are actively involved in the game, who are in the field, who are co-stewards, right, of bringing RAZE the capital and building its infrastructure and operations. And so, who are your fellow players?
So, great. So my fellow players is Brian Anderson, our CEO, and the head honcho, the leader of the organization. He's as set and focused and as all in as I am, on achieving this and working towards this and realizing, this vision for what we seek to create. And, we are collaborating very, very effectively. And for me personally, it's been a long time since I've had someone, or if ever, directly along, fully aligned, like, okay, we're going after this. And in addition to that, we have a whole bunch of other founding team members as well. An incredible designer and connector named GP, who's just makes things truly beautiful. People from the finance world, Sam, and great connectors like Joshua, and some helping with onboarding and operations and dealing with it too. Our legal team, who are also my goodness, this is incredible. Yeah, we're on board. We're going to dedicate, our interns towards solving all the questions and coming up with the memos and coming back fast, and really of a innovative mindset as opposed to a restrictive mindset, where it's here's what we're thinking to do, and you get 10 reasons why you can't do something. Instead, it's okay, yeah, we can do this. Let's figure out, we can do this. We can do this. And that's definitely a cultural shift from my native Canada, where oftentimes I was encountered a lot of everybody finding all the reasons to say no to something as opposed to say yes to something. So surrounding by a bunch of people who are of like mind of, yes, let's innovate, let's create, and let's build this thing to a greater ecosystem of now potential partners and clients who also see what's being created here, and are also very excited about getting into involved, to new like realm or new players who are advisors and who are filling really critical pieces, like like the development. Like we found our builder the other day, and he's like just is a beautiful mind, and his name's Roman. So grateful, and he's like, okay, we can build all these solutions. To our other partner and advisor and team and core team member Lucas, who's like based on his platform and that he's been building for the last 5 years, we're building on top of it, leveraging a really powerful stack to be able to come to market with a truly innovative product in like less than 2 months since kind of inception. So we're moving at this this exponential rate, and that really gets me going, because I like to move, and I like to move like not hastily, but like effectively, and
Exactly. That's what
precisely.
the game plan. This is the game plan for a bigger picture, and then there's a game play turntable where you kind of think about, like, again, the turn that you're in. Who are the engaged players who need to know about this? In project management, not all stakeholders need to know about everything at every time, but there are also probably multiple turns or moves happening between different player groups, right, in parallel. So that's something we will be talking about. And I think what I enjoyed hearing is, again, the saying yes. And I think what is within a team, it's also good to have some what I call banks. And banks are called banks because they control the flow of currency. You also want to have banks and boundaries to control your creative flow. So you want to have clear kind of structure of within what space you are open and inclusive to playing and saying yes. And then there are some other areas where you say it's maybe a not yet, because if you are only opportunistic, it means that the creative currencies that are flowing can wash over the banks and just seep away, and it's just creating a lot of confusion. So team clarity, what's the most important right now, creates alignment, bring people shoulder to shoulder, and a shared experience.
Absolutely.
That's the best.
There's always a time for like divergent thinking, exploring all the opportunities out there. But if all your meetings are divergent thinking, you're not going to go anywhere. You're just going to be
Exactly.
living in the field of possibilities, which is a fantasy in a way. And it's like it's great to do those from time to time, but also we need like convergent meetings where it's like we're coming together with a purpose, and it's like we're
Right.
going to park those things. And I like this is something that I'm having to learn, and like just be quiet, because like my brain naturally is very like I'm constantly being hit with visions and downloads of solutions and different solutions, and this is one of like my things. But okay, like, there's time and place for it, and it's like,
It's the
okay,
power of yet. Just
you know
like note them, and maybe put them in the not yet jar or board, like, or
and
folder.
or exactly, and it's like it's not for this conversation at this moment. And so
Yeah.
working on tempering that. And also, but again, like having, like you said, banks and people like staying in their lane, and utilizing their natural gifts, like in this co-creation model where we're all kind of in this together, and we know that we've got each other's backs. And this is why I'm so grateful to Brian, who's just so amazing. I feel like he's like an air traffic controller, and I feel safe flying with him, because he's making sure that everybody's there, and ultimately, like he's the kind of the point, the clear decision maker. And I have we have a great amount of trust and respect with each other here. But or not, and enables me to not have the weight of trying to be that air traffic controller, because I'm not a good air traffic control. I'm just not good at that. I can do it like in spurts, really good. Want to do like in the moment solving problems, like if there's an emergency, I'm your guy to handle problems. But when it's a larger, moving, multi-headed beast, like I have my values, but unfortunately, Brian's like really, really good at this. and very,
Fantastic.
very grateful. So yeah.
Okay, awesome. Now the next element is the products, and we can just like make a list, almost like a bullet list. So we have a couple of more elements here, and we have 25 more minutes to go until we have our hard stop. So the products is like list your commercial products and services, include your, I mean, you don't have to right now include your free offers. That's one of the notes here, but basically what are you selling right now?
So right now, I'll just speak for RAZE. Let's just keep it
RAZE.
on focus. So for RAZE, what we're selling right now is we're selling our own, capital and our own product of what we're actually doing. So, and people can invest within RAZE and earn fractional revenue in the long term on the platform's success. We're also like offering this product of helping innovators and social innovators and creators to be able to tokenize their corporate structures or their businesses, and fractionalize revenue is one of like our key differentiating offers. A unique selling point of the system is that unlike equities, because equity has when someone invests for equity, it's generally a very long period until it starts paying off. It requires a further financing event or an exit of the company, or until it becomes very large and starts paying out dividends. Oftentimes, they don't pay dividends. Now, by tokenizing gross revenue, as soon as revenue starts coming in, it's going to be splitting out and going towards the investors. So it's going to start providing immediate kind of cash flow. Not huge cash flow in the beginning for a product that doesn't have any revenue, but like that will be a milestone that will be more, there will be greater incentive to push it up the line. And then one of the great benefits of tokenizing this revenue and utilizing tokens is that there'll be a secondary market for liquidity, which means you'll be able to sell your tokens to another investor. So if you buy it for 1 ETH and you want to sell it for 5 ETH, or you buy it for $1,000, you want to sell it for $5,000, you simply within our product, and our product are these dynamic security tokens and dynamic membership tokens, which are like NFTs, but they're programmable. You can act within them. They're scarce. The sum of the elements of the tokens rest on blockchains, like the shares specifically. Those lie on blockchains for transparency, immutability, proof of ownership. But the tokens themselves can be programmed. So when you're become an investor into a project, within your token, which is like your share certificate for the project, you'll be able to, for one, set your payout address. Where do you want the distributions to go? So you provide it your digital address. And I'll just caveat quickly that all of this is possible thanks to digital programmable money and thanks to the cryptocurrency revolution. Was not possible. We could not do this before. We can do this now. So by adding an address to your token, you can then control where the distributions go. The other thing you can do is you can embed communication and connection tools. So for example, within our token, so our investor token is the ability to add the monthly Zoom call to your calendar. One click and you've got a recurring meeting in your calendar, which is where we'll be meeting with all of our investors to share updates of where the project is, where we're going, and how they can support and connect and become involved, which I think is really important and valuable. And then as well as the ability to set your sell price on it. So then there'll be a secondary market, and this another product is the secondary market. So enabling investors to sell their shares and for new investors to come buy it, because the project might have sold out of all of its initial token sale. And then if new investors want to come in, they'll be able to look at the order book that is being presented by the project and be able to see, oh, look, for 10 ETH, I'm going to be able to buy 3 tokens, and then they can execute that. And then those people who held the tokens, they already have their payout address set, so they'll just be instantly kind of compensated for that. So that's one side of the product. Another side of the product is for the investors. So actually, within our dynamic NFTs and these dynamic tokens, it's an opportunity to really engage in the due diligence process, which every investor must go through. Like, it's just par for the course. It means researching your project. So right from when we send a unique invite link to a potential investor, they click on that, they then get access to the deal. It provides the white paper, the pitch deck, the website, the ability to book a call with the team, to discuss things in more detail, then provides the full breakdown of what the offering is. In our case, we've got an equity offering and a revenue token offering. Then the selection, which one of those are you interested in? Okay, I'm interested in the revenue. Okay, great. Enter your payment, enter your investor information, look at the terms, agree to the terms, sign off on the terms, digital signatures on the terms. And then the next step, you're presented with a digital address to make a deposit to. And for every, in case right now, we're in the first round, it's 1 Ether, you'll get 1 investor token. You send 1 Ether to that address, instantly you get back one Ether. So we've taken what was traditionally a very long process of sending back and forth documents, term sheets, all the stuff, and brought it into a really 7-step process that can be done, in a very efficient amount of time. And so then for other investors, as we have more deals, then there'll be the ability, okay, a product is companies to invest in. And by creating a validated network of accredited investors, then they will be able to be exposed should the project wish to be exposed themselves to the larger network. They will have that ability. But I personally believe in private fundraising. We're not crowdfunding for companies. We're enabling private funding. So just like had you registered a company like by yourself and you were going out and directly dealing with investors, we're kind of emulating that same model, but enabling you to just send a link that encompasses this whole package for doing that. And if they want to expose themselves to this larger network, and I believe that many of them will want to do that, then that investor group will have an easy tool to be able to efficiently, effectively look at the deals. And then as we grow the platform, there's many more kind of fun projects and the ability to create a fund that's supporting the projects, and more, on it. So that's the core of, our offering. Well, and then I would also say providing also team members, founders, and advisors with digital certificates of their participation, as well as toolboxes, as I'll call them, like the advisor toolbox is what we have for our advisors, which lists out like 10 different hot links towards the deck, how to invite other investors, our internal meetings, our organizational chart, demos, the frequently asked questions, all these different resources that just will facilitate, more rapid connection, and effective actions, if you will.
Love it. Makes me think about the saying, it's not the big that eats the small, it's the fast that eats the slow. So it's you're on the fast path there. You're accelerating a process that doesn't need to be that long. And what I'm trying to wrap my mind around still and understand fully what RAZE does, but it seems to me like a next paradigm co-op model where again there's a co-ownership in some ways to the businesses by the investors or by its members, and I love that. That's so.
And you can
amazing.
just take an LLC structure and then on top of it, apply a fraction, by fractionalizing the equity or the revenue, you can definitely create a very transparent and efficient model for co-ownership and then ultimately governance as well. And there's many paths towards governance. We're seeing a lot of the 100% DAO models where it's you have to sign your tokens to do the voting. That's one way you can do it. You can also just have a Zoom call with people, or an in-person meeting, where they're voting on things. But using our platform too, we can speed this up as well. And when a governance decision needs to happen, the governance token will literally the vote token can appear right within your wallet, and you'll be able to vote on it instantly, and have that vote recorded and be notified, by email or text message or something like that, or via the app once we have the app, that there's this pending, vote, whatever it might be for. Every companies have their own kind of levels of governance, and sometimes, there aren't going to be a lot of governance in the traditional public, in the public markets. Most investors don't vote. They don't actually really have voting rights. If you're just buying shares on, Robinhood or, one of those trading platforms, there's no real engagement. You can see the financials. There really isn't that much of a forum to actually engage and communicate with the parties. But that's big business. That's not our focus. Our focus is on like small, medium-sized businesses, exponential organizations looking to create new models, and where, you could take 10 businesses and like create one super business. Like, why not just have 10 businesses and just have rights and ownerships on all of them, and each one of them move as a separate module. In the future, I think it's going to be having, being involved in lots of different projects as opposed to just a singular one.
Right, that's awesome. So one thing, so the next element here is game piece are the allies. And these are players are engaged in each turn. Allies are more advisors that you can have conversations with, that are supportive of wanting to see you win, right? Who is in your network, who could be activated, what affinity groups are you part of, and who are your referral partners? Like, who wants to see you succeed? Those are your allies.
Right. So I think, all of our stakeholders will become our allies within. So our investors will become allies, but then, I think at a personal level, our own kind of networks of people also want us to see us succeed, and always how can we, beneficially, without placing obligations or expectations, provide an invitation for others to support our success and growth. Of our own personal.
And we can create, when we transcribe this, we can create a list of really names and allies and groups, just to bring awareness to them that they want to be regarded and contacted, and let them know about what it is that you're up to. Because the allies need to know what's going on, so that they know how you can help. Because that's also something, in collaboration, just as a quick coaching, is asking for help, right? Extending how trust is built is by people putting effort into you. How effort is activated is by asking for help. So, and that's the act of asking, rather than thinking that you guys as players, as a team, have to have it all figured out. It's actually you going to your networks, to your allies, and asking for help. And when they invest themselves into you through the effort that they put into you, that's huge, because it's like IKEA effect. It's like you have a sense of greater ownership to the furniture that you have struggled with assembling, rather than the designer piece that was delivered in one piece. So it's when effort is invested, the pride of ownership increases and trust is being built. So that's how can your allies, how can you increase trust and engagement and effort within your ally network?
Joseph, you're so well spoken. You're so clear, and you just break it down, and you're just an incredible facilitator, and so grateful, because yes, now after you saying that, beyond the investors, whatever, it's like, who are some of the other real allies? So any incubators, any accelerators that are seeking to grow, those represent great partners. So 500 startups, Y Combinator, and all the other emergent ones of the all the different launch pads out there. Those like, the chambers of commerce, for example, who are seeking to help the businesses around them like thrive. The centers of excellence, those represent associations, community association, blockchain associations, small business associations,
I will look at the
universities.
co-ops too, and the co-op networks and co-op banks, because they are just like already, they're doing it the old ways. And this is it's a new way for them to
Absolutely. And like,
operate.
and we have other products, like we have the product of utilizing the RAZE underlying kind of framework, the foundation. We can, create that, we can white label that for other options. So that's another product that's available, is we can help white label this for other entities, because at the end of the day, like, it isn't so much about being like, necessarily Airbnb and having like full market brand capture on it. It's more about being like, the underlying kind of engine and the foundation, taking tolls on all the traffic that's running through the highway, in a way.
Yes. Yeah.
And, and then I would also say the institutions and the educational kind of, sphere, like the entrepreneurial classes, the business schools, like, I think that they can be a great ally, because, we want this new modality. Instead of teaching, like if you're a student, do you want to be learning about the way that corporations, if you're in a business school, do you want to be learning about the way that corporations were fundraising 5 or 10 years ago, or do you want to know about the way that they can raise like right now on the edge? And I think the the best, or not the best, but like, those who are forward thinking, will be interested in this, and who really want to set up the students. And I think the students also, and like the student associations, the business clubs, etc., like come on in, like, the younger generation, I want them to be, our allies, toward looking at new models, because
Nice.
ultimately this is going to be, they're going to be tomorrow's leaders.
Very intriguing. Now, one of the most juiciest parts, and I know we have a few more minutes, and then we probably take a break to come back to it again, are action cards. Action cards are your non-monetary assets, your gifts, your talents, your resources, your connections. Like, who do you have access to? Then in the new paradigm, it's access over ownership. Who do you have access to rather than ownership? In the old paradigm, you only saw what you owned, and then if you wanted more, you had to fight over another piece of the pie, so to say. But in the new paradigm, in the shared economy, it's who you have access to. And then it's also about how you're playing your action cards, because you yourself, nobody knows your gifts, talents, resources, connections, nobody knows. It's your stack of cards. And most of us, because these are high treasures, we keep them close to our chest. We play poker with them. And nobody even knows how to ask for them. So what we need to do, we got to turn the deck upside down. We need to become more aware of them first. And then secondly, we need to show them. We got to share them at the right time with the right people, saying like, I have this action card if you're interested in it. And then they can say like, oh yeah, that's super, awesome, amazing. Or like, not right now, but it's good to know that you have it. So,
and I think that's one of the most critical things.
Stream of consciousness is like, again, like it's an exercise that we need to expand on. But like, let's say, rattle out down 10 action cards right now that you can think of that you already have.
Like me personally.
You personally, your action cards.
So, Florida setup, Canadian properties for utilization, a 40-foot bus in San Diego that can be wrapped and activated. Personally, the ability to evaluate, like, on a skill set, evaluate any project and understand kind of where it fits in, be able to provide a very quick, thin slice based on, my background and experience, and be able to share that openly, no questions asked. Connecting to from technology solutions to, the connections. Like, if we go down every single layer of industry, there's many different action cards that are in play. Speakers, microphones, how to set up OBS, how to set up like, you know, Zoom to be able to host a party, how to, you know, do a long distance drive. If I'm going somewhere, there's an action card. Here we go. You're welcome to come along. Raising children, you know, this new modality of raising children, homeschooling, access to homeschooling networks, accessing to some of the regenerative communities as well. There's like, I don't know, I think probably hit 10 there, but it goes, there's many, there's so many different action cards that all of us possess. And then I'll say within our like a RAZE team, we all have so many different action cards. And this is a really great example of something that a team can go through. Also, another action card is access to you, Yosef, and to be able to help teams understand and unlock the power of radical facilitation and radical collaboration. And I just want to be conscious, I've got a hard stop in 3 minutes. So we're gonna
pause here.
We're gonna pause and capture this at this moment, and you know, I come back for the conclusion of this at another time. But to know that, you know, I think this is a really great. I'm so grateful to Yosef for, you know, this magical hour that we've spent together.
Me too. Thank you. This is amazing. Like what's already been uncovered here and put attention to and focus on is already amazing. So I look forward to continuing the conversation.
What are the last?
So cliffhanger, okay. Action cards of others is something that you just can think about, like who do you know what they have access to, right? The next one is what opportunities can you spot right now? Or what opportunities can you create? Then it's also a little bit the thinking of obstacles. What is in the way? Like what are maybe old mindsets? What are some tangible obstacles that need to be addressed so that you can do some contrast thinking and figure out like if, when, like you run into these obstacles, then what? Then also, what are some investment opportunities? And I don't just mean capital, but also again, time and attention. What are some risks? And risk is like what rules and limiting beliefs are possibly holding you back. Right? So that's something, again, because what narratives don't support your game or goals. Then you look at funding. Who are your banks? Who are your funders? Where can capital come from? Then you're looking at currencies. And currencies is not just dollar, the fiat currencies, but again, what is in addition to money? What are other creative currencies that you can circulate during the day? Like including trust, effort, feedback, generosity, interests, care, time, and attention. These are high value currencies, right? Really. And then last is movement. How do you define movement? And sometimes movement is, okay, we make a turn, we have a short-term goal here for the week. Weekly check-in calls could be great movement, but how do you measure progress? What feedback loops are you setting into place? So we will design those in our next session, and then you have a game plan for RAZE, and then we can distill out what's the next best step that the team can take in alignment towards your goal.
Well, if you've enjoyed part 1, stay tuned for part 2.
Part 2 coming up
some point in the near future.
All right,
Yosef. I love you, brother. Thank you so much. Bye for now.